with this. Welcome to the second half episode of Diamond Kings, where we're talking baseball news as part of the Sports Kings Media Network. My name is David Whitlock. I'm down here in Houston, Texas, and I'll be moderating our panel of experts as usual. I'm sure all baseball fans tuned into the All-Star game on Tuesday. It was interesting from a lot of perspectives, and we're definitely going to digest that and then kind of look forward to the second half a little bit. But without further ado, let me introduce my panelists today. Definitely want to welcome Leroy McConnell III back with us after a couple weeks off. He is live from a fire station in Dallas, I believe. He may have to leave at any given moment, but he is here to support the city of Dallas and the Diamond Kings at the same time. How are you doing tonight, Leroy?
I'm doing well. How you doing, fellas? Diamond King. Glad to be back.
It is definitely great to have you back, buddy. And we'll move over to Florence, South Carolina with Michael Prosser. Michael, how are you doing tonight?
Well, I too am returning after a one-game suspension, so I feel like Dan Ugla, except, I don't know, maybe I can hit the ball a little bit better. I don't know.
You certainly could not hit the ball any worse as far as contact and batting average goes, which is a sad thing, says our Braves fan. And last but not least, of course, is Kelvin LaPierre from Arkport, New York. How are things up in New York? How are you doing tonight, Kelvin?
Doing good. I'm the only one not to be suspended on this panel so far, so it's pretty much a good thing.
Absolutely. Well, it's great to have you guys with us. Last week, I want to thank Frank Santos for hosting our show last week. I got to feature as a panelist instead of a host. That was a fun journey indeed. But we've moved back to our regular format. I do want to say we are hoping to add our Rookie of the Year candidate, Wade Chapman. He's one of our new panelists or writers on our blog, and he'll be with us in an upcoming week. But wasn't able to be with us tonight, but will be shortly. So let's get right into the All-Star game. I'd like to ask you each what your overall thoughts were on the All-Star game, and it could be from what you saw on the field to what you think about the All-Star game itself. Is it still meaningful? It did get top ratings or percentage points above last year's ratings. A lot of that has to do with Jeter, but we're not talking Jeter yet because we're going to talk Jeter in a minute. But we'll go in the same rotation as we introduced. Leroy, did you watch the All-Star game? Did you enjoy it? What were your thoughts?
I watched the Smiths. I watched up until Jeter left the game. But it was a well-played game. However, if you're going to play for the World Series, if this is supposed to be a meaningful game, I had a problem with Mike Matheny not starting Clayton Kershaw. He's the hottest pitcher in baseball right now. I know he wants to throw his guy, and I know Wainwright had every right to be there, but Kershaw's the man right now. I didn't understand why he didn't get the nod. And I know you don't want to talk about Jeter, but he probably should have played the whole 9 innings. Everybody, it was a tribute to him. And he should have played the whole game, in my opinion. But it was a well played game, and like I said, the only problem I had was the Kershaw not starting the game.
Yeah, that certainly blew up right in Matheny's face because after all the controversy, Wainwright came out, gave up just 3 runs in the first inning, and they looked out of it. And then the National League came back. Then his other pitcher, Pat Neshek, gave up more runs. So it was and of course Kershaw came in the second inning and dominated, but he was also facing the bottom 3 guys in the lineup. He wasn't facing Trout and Cabrera and Jeter and those guys. So you can look at it either way. Michael, what were your initial thoughts and reactions on the All-Star game?
My initial thoughts and reactions were I was stuck at work and couldn't watch. But I ended up catching the highlights. I think it was Wednesday morning. What did I wake up at, 11 o'clock that morning Eastern time? Yeah, usually around that time. That sounds about right. Late night Tuesdays, you wake up late on Wednesdays. It got to the point where, I expected something a little bit more high scoring, it's an all-star game. You have the best from both worlds in baseball. I was expecting a 10-8 or 11-2, maybe even a blowout on one side, but it was a little bit more pitching or dominated than what I had expected, especially when you got a guy like a Mike Trout, Miguel Cabrera. I was disappointed that there was no Edwin Encarnacion, which that's just another crushing blow to the Toronto Blue Jays. You started falling behind in the standings of the Baltimore Orioles, and then you go ahead and you start looking like the Toronto Blue Jays that we're used to and getting hurt all the time. I really think that they need to rework this whole World Series thing out. I think I've been preaching that for a couple of years now. I don't see the point in it. There's just you're putting way too much pressure or way too much thought into a game that's supposed to just be fun. And there's really no you're trying to give incentive to something that shouldn't have incentive at all, and I think that's just crap. But that's just what I garnered from ESPN's highlights, not anything about Derek Jeter, because it seems like that was all anybody was talking about on ESPN was Derek Jeter.
Indeed, and we'll cover that in the next segment. It was actually kind of there was a lot of scoring early, and it was looking like it was interesting when the American League got up 3-0. The announcers started to say, "Well, this is pretty much over." When you look at the American League pitchers, they're going to dominate. And then the National League got back into it, and then it went back and forth. But the All-Star game, they always say good pitching beats good hitting, but I think somebody like Yogi Berra or Casey Stengel said like good pitching beats good hitting unless the hitting's doing better. So. Going over to Kelvin, did you watch the All-Star game? Obviously, you probably did. What were your thoughts overall? Did you enjoy the performance?
Yeah, I watched it. It's set up perfectly. If you look at the whole way the American League set up, it's set up perfectly. Jeter getting double in the first at bat, then it goes Trout gets a triple in the next at bat, and then Cabrera goes yard in the third at bat. So it sets up. It seems like the American League's just going to pound whoever's out on the mound. Wainwright was getting rocked. It seemed like the whole first inning, no matter what was going on, no matter what pitch he threw, it seemed like the American League was just going to pound him all night long. And then they bring in Kershaw. Kershaw shuts down the bottom third of that lineup. And then after that, the National League seemed to settle down until the fifth inning when the American League got 2 more runs to make it a 5-3 game after the National League scores off John Lester in the second inning, making it 3-2. Then they tie it up in the third to make it 3-3. Then the American League just held on after the fifth inning, scoring 2 runs. And then you bring in Minnesota's closer to close out the game in the ninth. How perfectly did that set up for the American League? That crowd was going crazy. It's the first time Minnesota said pretty much anything to cheer about that loudly in maybe a good 3 to 4 years.
Since 1989 or 91.
And I mean, that
Kirby
place
Puckett was the last thing
rocking.
anybody cheered about in Minnesota.
Yeah,
I mean, that place was just loud. I mean, I'm sitting here watching it at home, drinking a cold one, and I'm like, man, that place is loud. And they're not in the dome anymore; they're outside, and that place was rocking. So, just imagine what that place will be like when they get back into the postseason. It's going to be a tough place to play. But as far as the game overall, I loved the game. It seemed to have gone at a pretty decent pace. It wasn't a 4-hour game like years past where it was a blowout one way or another. It was a pretty solid game.
Yeah, it certainly was an entertaining. It moved quickly. I like that it moved quickly. There wasn't too many pitching changes, etc. But let's move right into the Derek Jeter discussion. I'm going to tie our next 2 topics together. Obviously, this was all about Derek Jeter. What he, it was his last game. He's retiring. 3,000 hits. Mr. New York Yankee, El Capitan. So he was obviously the center of attention, which is not his normal thing to like. He's not a guy that wants to run around and get the center of attention like a Barry Bonds, per se. But so he got the center of attention, and at the same time, and there was all the pomp and circumstance around that, but at the same time, there was some thought that Tony Gwynn should have got a mention, because Tony Gwynn, of course, passed away just a few weeks ago. We talked about it on our show, the tragedy of it. Should there have been something during the game? Should the broadcast have mentioned it? Apparently, his name never crossed anybody. I mean, in 4 to 5 hours of coverage, they never talked about Tony Gwynn. So this time we'll start with, we'll just go back to Kelvin. We'll let him just keep going, because I know he's a big Jeter fan. What were your thoughts on how Derek Jeter did, on the coverage of Jeter, and your thoughts on whether or not Tony Gwynn should have been a more central part of the Fox broadcast?
Well, I know you guys are sick of the whole Derek Jeter thing. You say that it's overdone, overplayed. He's got way too much attention on him. But if you go back in this guy's career, he's never wanted the attention. He doesn't even want
That's
this
right.
attention. He does not want the attention he's getting now, but he's getting it because he's been the face of Major League Baseball. He's played the game the right way. He's done everything that anybody could have ever asked out of the guy. His Turn 2 Foundation. He is actively going to other people's events to bring in revenue for them. He went to a Kansas City Royals event on a last-minute decision when he got a phone call a couple years ago. Kansas City had an event where their fundraising revenue was down until Derek Jeter got announced at the last minute. It skyrocketed. This guy does anything for any given organization. He deserves everything he's getting. And I know people are getting sick of it, but if this was somebody on your team that you were a favorite of, Chipper Jones got the same treatment a couple years ago back in 2012 when he retired. Mariano Rivera got it last year. Maybe that's why everybody's getting sick of it, because it's 2 Yankees straight in a row that's getting this treatment.
I do think that's part of it.
So, but Derek Jeter deserves everything he's getting. The Tony Gwynn situation really upsets me because ESPN did a great job of it during their home run derby coverage. ESPN mentioned Tony Gwynn just as much as they did Derek Jeter. They mentioned him with every stat. Whenever they compared Jeter, they compared something about Jeter and Tony Gwynn together. It was never just the Jeter or Gwynn. It was comparing the two together, and then they had a moment where they talked about just Gwynn for a while during the home run derby on ESPN. But the Fox missed out huge not talking about Tony Gwynn. That upsets every baseball fan, and every baseball fan's right. They should be upset, and Fox needs to do something huge to make up for that. There's no reason not to do anything for one of the greatest pure hitters in the game's ever seen.
No, I certainly agree with you that that the Jeter coverage was worthy to an extent. It takes away from the game at some point when you're talking about him so much that you're not talking about the game. But I'll live with that. As for the Gwynn situation, one of the main things that I think of is, okay, where's that line? If you talk about Gwynn, why don't you talk about the other players that have passed in the last 6 months or year? And they're talking about, well, there should be a moment of silence during the All-Star game to pay attention to everybody. But I think certainly, Tony, an acknowledgement at least, just a short segment saying, I think we lost a former All-Star, a guy who was an All-Star less than 10 years ago, would have been appropriate. Leroy, you obviously watched. You said you watched the All-Star game until Derek Jeter left the game. What were your thoughts on the Jeter coverage? Was it too much? Was it not enough? What about the way they took him out? Anything? Your thoughts on that, and then your thoughts on Gwynn as well.
Well, I understood why they took him out. They wanted him to get a standing ovation. They could have done that at any time of the game. He's 2 for 2. He's hitting the ball. People are excited to see him hit the ball. So I mean, who knows? He could have got another 2 hits. You know, he would have set the record of the oldest guy to hit multiple hits in the game.
That's right.
People were there to see him. Everybody know they're serenading Jeter. And like this is the modern day Joe DiMaggio, you know, and he's the most classiest guy in baseball. And so I didn't understand why they would take him out. As far as Tony Gwynn, they should have done some type of tribute. Probably when they did the 7th-inning stretch. I mean, this man was a 14.
I'm not sure if we lost Leroy there. Is anybody else hearing him? Yeah, he's coming back.
We're experiencing some technical difficulties, folks. We'll be right back with a word from our sponsor.
All right, well, we'll wait for Leroy to come back. In the meantime, Michael, you talked a little bit about Derek Jeter earlier. What were your thoughts on Jeter and the All-Star appearance? I know you didn't see the game, but what are your thoughts on the adulation he's getting to the season today?
I don't want to be a Scrooge here, Dave. But like Kelvin said, there are people who think that it's a little too much. I'm one of those people. I mean, I understand what he has meant to the game of baseball. I respect the man as a player and as a person, but I guess there's a little bit of that deep down hatred for all things New York Yankees after what they did to the Braves in the playoffs, or especially the '96 World Series. how you drubbed how we drubbed the Yankees like 16-1, I think it was, in Game 1, and then ended up losing that series because of David Cone. It still hurts, I guess. It's a little bit of sour grapes. But at one point do you say enough is enough? I mean, you mentioned the guy at least 100 times in an All-Star game. I mean, come on. There's other players on the field. I mean, if you're going to do that for Derek Jeter, you got to do that for the rest of everybody else who retires from now on, who have as great a career. You think people are going to do that with Mike Trout 20 years from now when he retires? Maybe, maybe not. You going to do that with Pujols?
Yeah.
You going to do that with Pujols? Maybe, maybe not. You obviously didn't do it with Tony Gwynn, or, he would have been mentioned a little bit more. I'm with Leroy. I think they should have at least done, maybe, mentioned it or something. I can see, in a sense, why they didn't, though, because of all the coverage that it got when it actually happened. But kudos, from kudos to I did get a chance to watch the Home Run Derby, and kudos to ESPN for doing what they did in regards to that. I was kind of upset that they didn't really mention the dude from Oakland, and they didn't really talk about Jin Segura and how he lost his 9-month-old son, which, by the way, we at all of us here at Sports Kings, around RBTS, everybody extend our condolences to the Jin Segura family and the Milwaukee Brewers organization. He did come back to the team. I hope to never experience the loss of a child until I'm well into my 90s. Maybe even, if the good Lord willing I get to live that long. I hope to never experience something like that. That is just heartbreaking to anybody. But at the same time, Todd Frazier. Can I talk about Todd Frazier right quick being in the Home Run Derby? How did Todd Frazier get to the end? That was the last person that I expected to make it to the end of the Home Run Derby was Todd Frazier. So kudos to you, Todd Frazier. And you know what? Everybody stop giving Adam Wainwright all this crap about how you threw one down the middle, you gave Derek Jeter a soft one. So what? It's an all-star game. If you people are actually competing in an all-star game, something's definitely wrong.
It's the next topic, Michael. That's the next topic.
Yeah.
Oh, well. I jumped the gun a little bit. I've always been ahead of the game.
I got another thing about Frazier. Go back and look at a picture of 1998. Look who's standing next to Derek Jeter in 1998, and then go to this All-Star game. It's Todd Frazier.
Nice.
What was Todd Frazier doing in '98?
He was standing next to Derek. No, it's where they had like the All-Stars come out with like other All-Stars, like the kids from like Little League come out, and he was standing next to Derek Jeter. Then they just recently posted a picture today on Jeter's website. It was Todd Frazier back in '98 and compared him to now. It's pretty cool.
Right, interesting. Todd Frazier, he has a secret power there in Cincinnati. He's one of the more consistent performers. He had one of the longest home runs this year, like 470 feet. So he's just a name that doesn't resonate because
completely unexpected to me. I guess since Cincinnati is one of those places where you don't
small
really
markets
hear about
don't get coverage.
Yeah. Exactly. You're not seeing them on Sunday Night Baseball, or what I like to call Sunday Night Baseball, the Sunday New York Yankees game, because
they are on Fox Sports 1 this Saturday at 3:30.
Right. Tune in on Saturday, Fox Sports 1.
Fox Sports 1, ladies and gentlemen, everybody be there. It's going to be a real old-fashioned barn burner.
Right.
Did y'all realize during the Home Run Derby that Justin McNeil had more home runs than anybody that participated? He had a whole bunch of future home run kings that had less than 100 home runs that was in the contest. That was kind of strange for me. I'm like, this is a home run hitting contest, and no one out there has home runs over 100 career home runs. It was mind-boggling to me.
Well, it was interesting then that they included so many younger stars, but didn't include Jose Abreu, who's leading the league. But
that was kind of.
Frazier.
Got to remember, they're captain now. They're captain picks. So
Jose Abreu might be the most underrated player in the game today, and he's only a rookie. That's scary.
Yeah, well, he still only hits 240 and strikes out a ton.
Yeah, but he's
the new improved
Show me a
Adam
power
Dunn.
guy that hits 290 and 40 dingers.
Right. All right. Okay, we're going to move on from the All-Star game. Kelvin, I think you wanted to talk about the Wainwright and Jeter thing. I'll let you work that into to the next segment. But and Leroy, welcome back. We dropped you for a minute there, but glad. We thought maybe you had to run out for a stabbing or something, but you're back. But anyway, let's look towards the second half of the season. Now that we're past the All-Star break, and tonight, which is Thursday that we're recording this, there's no games tonight, but we're about to ramp up. Almost every division race is close. There's so many teams that are in it. There's so many individual performances that are at stake. What are you most looking forward to in the second half? Is it a division race? Is it to see if your team excels and makes the playoffs, or if they are one of those that ends up trading? Are you looking forward to specific trades? This time we'll go back to Michael. What are your thoughts on the second half?
Oh, you guys shouldn't have. In any sport, it doesn't matter if it's baseball, basketball, football, hockey, whatever. If it's got a trade line, I'm glued to the TV. The trade deadline in any sport is like Christmas to me. That is Christmas and trade deadlines and free agency. Those are my Christmas. The draft is like New Year's and birthday combined. But I love the aspect of it, how it just makes or break a team. There's just something about that. It's just like, oh, dude, that's like the coolest thing ever. But speaking of, I want to see if David Price goes to a contender and succeeds. I know Wade earlier had said something about a deal in place between the Angels and the Rays where David Price would go out to play with the Halos and, be in the thick of things in the AL West. He hasn't really, aside from that year when, they went to the World Series, he hasn't really had that much playoff experience. Yeah, he's been in the playoffs, but not to an extent where it's been a continuous success of deep runs. If he goes to a team like the Angels, he's bound to have those. I'm also anxious to see if, these usual bottom feeders, Kansas City, the Southsiders in Chicago, the Mariners, if these teams are going to start ramping it up and make that push. And if they do make that push, are they going to be able to continue that push? Because it's kind of weird to me seeing a team like Kansas City in like second or third place. You're like, wait a minute, these guys suck, don't they? No. This is not, your older brother's Kansas City Royals team. This is like everybody's starting to come together nowadays. Obviously everybody's going to be watching, Derek Jeter and, his final farewell. And, just as a pure baseball fan, of course, I'm going to have to watch that. It's kind of, it's a symbol that I'm getting older. I'm 24, but I'm getting older when I'm seeing guys that, I grew up watching retiring. It's like, dude, where did my life go? Like, Chipper Jones is gone. Bobby Cox is gone. Now Derek Jeter's going. Mariano Rivera's. I thought it was weird when Trevor Hoffman retired. And then here it is, Derek Jeter's retiring. Like, it's like Father Time is wearing a 1903 Red Sox jersey and slapping me in the face right now. Like, it's the worst feeling ever. But, it is what it is. So. Definitely going to keep my eye on David Price, though.
Yeah, agree with that. Leroy and I are laughing at you and your 24-year-old. I remember, like, what strikes me is remembering that when Lou Piniella played, and then Lou Piniella went to be a manager, and now he's like 70-something. He's not even a manager anymore.
So, he used to be Kansas City Royal.
I missed that guy. That guy was awesome.
And so it's the sands of time passes. And so speaking of the sands of time, let's move to Leroy. Sorry, didn't mean any offense on that one. But
are you calling him old, Dave? Come on, man.
This old man. Heck, I've got reading glasses on. What do you expect?
You're not old,
what are you looking for
you're as young as you feel.
Leroy, you got any thoughts on are the Rangers going to do any trades, or what are you looking forward to in the second half?
Well, heck, who wants our players? Heck, all our players on the disabled list.
I'll take
Beltre
right now.
I'll take that Gallo kid. I want that Gallo kid.
Well, heck, we need Gallo. You know what? You guys can take Beltre, and we can move Gallo up. And
I'll take you, Darvish, too.
No, we need you, Darvish. That's the only time we can sell out the stadium now. I'm kind of interested to see how the National League Central turns out. I mean, you have four teams within 3.5 games. Pittsburgh 3.5 out. Who's gonna win that division? We thought Pittsburgh was long gone. We thought it was just a one-time appearance from last year. They're back, and they're ready to rock and roll. McCutcheon is playing MVP baseball in the National League right now. He's coming strong. I wonder, is this the year for Oakland? I mean, Billy Beane finally spent some money on an ace. I mean, heck, he already got an ace, but I think Samardzija is going to do some damage in the American League West. So that's what? You know what? Seattle's going to hang in there too. And I did hear a rumor about David Price going to Seattle. And if you have David Price and Felix in the same 1-2 punch, and heck, we up there sitting there laughing at Cano and all. He hasn't hitting the long ball, but heck, he's got more hits than anybody besides Altuve in the American League. Oh yeah, okay, you love Houston shot, and Houston finally above Texas.
I didn't mention that, but since you mentioned it, I noticed that.
I would like to see an L.A. Dodger, Oakland A's World Series. I think that is possible. Something possible. Far as individuals, I would like to see the last game Jeter plays against Boston. I would like to see how Boston treats him because they treat it, even though it's a big rivalry, but they respect Jeter. And I just love that commercial that Jeter had, the Nike commercial.
Yeah, that was a good one.
That was real special. As far as individual, I would love to see? I would love to see Abreu and Nelson Cruz go for the 61 home run record, and I would like to see how the fans will react if Nelson Cruz could hit 60 to 60 home runs, because they're always they don't want him doing anything, and they sat there and cried when he made the All-Star game. So I would just imagine, what if he challenged the 61 original home run record, especially being suspended on PEDs. I just want to see how Major League Baseball will react.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's interesting that the fans voted Cruz in spades, so the fans appear to have forgiven him. John Lackey made some comments that he doesn't deserve it, and what do the fans think? And of course, he's probably defending this guy Ortiz, who's batting like 246. The fact that Edwin Encarnacion was on that DH ballot and didn't get voted in is the biggest crime of the century. But,
is Encarnacion hurt?
He's
hurt.
Yeah.
He
He's
made
got
the
a grade 2 quad strain.
Okay.
He made the All-Star team. He wasn't voted in as a starter, and he was announced to the team about 12 hours before he read the quad. So he would have been there otherwise. But no, you bring up some great points. The National League Central is going to be a race to watch. The American League West is going to be insane, especially if one of those teams like Seattle gets priced, because the Angels are like the second best team in the American League right now, behind the A's, because they're only about a game and a half behind the A's, who are the best team in baseball. And the A's went out and got Samardzija. Of course, you mentioned the Dodgers and the A's. You can't help but think of Eckersley versus Kirk Gibson, 1988. That would be crazy. Hey, and Vin Scully is still alive and with us. He could call that game, but I won't go any more down those paths. Let's go over to Kelvin. What are your thoughts on the second half? And if you want to talk that Jeter Wainwright thing, which you just talked earlier, you're welcome to talk that too.
All right, I'll start off with that. Michael brought this up a little bit ago. Adam Wainwright, during the middle of the game, after he got taken out, he went back and met with reporters like all MLB players do at the All-Star game. They now do it during the hockey game, and they do it during any typical All-Star game when they're done playing. The only one that doesn't do it is the NBA. They meet with reporters, and they do all their interviews after they're done with playing. The pitchers do anyway, and he said that it was taken out of context, but the reporter said that he grooved one into Derek Jeter out of respect for what he's done for the game in that interview, and that's exactly what the tape says. That's what he said, and he went on Fox, said to Aaron Andrews it was taken out of context. It wasn't taken out of context. Look, everybody gets this that's retiring. Everybody gets this. Look at Chipper Jones at bat in 2012 when he came up in the 6th inning. The second baseman at the time, Chipper hits a weak ground ball to the second baseman, and he lets it go. I mean, he gave him the base hit. And then you look at back when Cal Ripken Jr. retired. They grooved one right down the middle on the first pitch of the game, and he jacks it out of the yard. So It's not the first time this has ever happened. It's not a big deal. It was the first inning, thinking that his team could come back, and he didn't expect Derek Jeter to do patented inside-out swing to drive that down for a double down the line. He was looking just for him to go up the middle with it, and he did his patented inside-out swing, which was great. Every fan loves that swing. I don't care who you are. That swing that is the patented Derek Jeter swing right there, inside out. It's how you hit the ball on an inside pitch, which is where that was. Now back to what the second half. I'm looking forward to what Leroy said. That NL Central, which were at the beginning of the year, I believe it was a month in, the Pittsburgh Pirates were like 7.5 games out. I didn't write them off because it was so early, but it seemed like they needed to get traction before the All-Star break, and they did that. They're back within, I believe it's a couple games of the first place in that division. You got St. Louis right back in there. Milwaukee started out hot, but they're kind of playing around 500 right now, which is allowing these guys to catch back up to them. And then I'm looking to see the trade deadline. The trade deadline in any sport is huge for me. Like Michael, it's huge. It's like a birthday gift all wrapped up into one. David Price, I believe he will be dealt. I don't think they hold on to him. I think he ends up on a West Coast team. Is it Seattle? Is it L.A.? Is it the Angels? Is it San Francisco? Trying to bolster up that pitching rotation to make a run back into that division to get within L.A. I don't know, but I think that's where he ends up is in the West Coast. If he goes to Seattle, I'm giving Cano props. Like I said before, I tore him up on Facebook and Twitter after he went to Seattle just for the money. During the All-Star game, I don't know if you guys happened to see, I can't remember the player's name. It's another Seattle player who made the All-Star team. He came in the late innings in the American League, and he was hitting, and they were talking about how his hitting has improved since Cano came to the lineup. But it's all because Cano came in and he told him to stop pressing the ball and start going the other way like he was before because he got pull happy. I mean, yeah, he pulled the ball in the All-Star game, but that's one reason that Seattle's where they are. And if you add David Price to that lineup, they have a 3-horse pitching rotation with Hernandez number 1, Price number 2, and then is it Iwakuma? Would be their third. That's a tough 1, 2, 3 in any division. So if David Price can go there, that's something. Oakland, I want to see if Oakland hangs on because LA is playing really, really good right now. They caught Oakland after stumbling out of the blocks like Pittsburgh did. They've seemed to get traction. They're not hurt. Pujols is starting to slump off a little bit, but he got hot the last week before the All-Star break. And then I'm looking forward to Derek Jeter because being a diehard Yankees fan, growing up watching Derek Jeter, I idolized Derek Jeter. My batting stance in Little League in high school was off of Derek Jeter's famous touch the cap, wiggle the bat a little bit, and step in and all that stuff. So I'm looking forward to watching Derek Jeter the last 75 games I've got watching him because I don't think the Yankees make the postseason again for the second year in a row. With that said, that's what I'm looking forward to. If anybody in Boston has tickets they want to send to me, go ahead. I'll gladly take them for the last series in Boston. I'll buy you a few brews if you want. We can go out, get drunk, talk Derek Jeter. We can talk Dustin Pedroia. We can talk anything Boston if you want. If you want to give them to me, get a hold of me on here. I'll gladly take those.
Right. It's an interesting because of course, I live in Houston, and I went to the Astros games at the end of the year last year, and Mariano Rivera pitched that last game in New York, and then he overtly said, or there was rumors like his last game would be in Houston. He might even play the outfield. Then he finally just said, "I'm not. My last game was in New York." So I can't imagine Jeter doing that, given the build-up to this, that he wouldn't go out on the field that last year. Let's just assume the Yankees are in a playoff race, that he wouldn't go out to the last series to try to compete. But
That's all right.
in an ideal ending, Jeter walking off the Yankee Stadium, never playing again.
Well, the only way Jeter goes out, I think, is if they're in contention. If they're still in contention for like that second wild card or that first wild card, he'll be out there. But if they're not, I'd rather see him play his last game in New York. But at the same time, with him missing all of last year, you want to go out playing as many games as possible, you would think.
I would think, and that was the thing with the Yankees got eliminated right before the final series. So they didn't. So we went out, hoped to see Rivera. We got to see him wave around. And a small irony of that series was that might have been Alex Rodriguez's last series as being active too. But I don't think he made that trip because he was going to make the trip and he was going to try to get out of the trip. And then they said he made the trip and he never played. But I was like, we're going to see Rivera and Alex Rodriguez's last game. But anyway, now. We're going to move on to our final segment, which is talking a little non-baseball. And it's the British Open this weekend, and everybody here is sports fans, so now you're going to talk about golf. What do you think about Tiger Woods' return to golf, to the majors? Does he have any chance this weekend? He's 3 shots off Rory McIlroy. And is he going to win another major even in general? He's there on the cusp of beating Jack Nicklaus. But is he too hurt? Is he too beat up, even though he's still got more age left in him? Let's go to Leroy first, because at any point he can be called for a fire. Leroy.
Well, the key thing I heard from him saying this week was he is healthy. He is not hurting anymore. That is the most important thing that I needed to hear. I don't expect him to win this weekend. This is what, second or third appearance this year.
Right.
He was shaky at the very beginning, the first 2 holes, but he was 5 under the rest of the way. He's very comfortable at this on this course. I think he won back in what, 07 or 06, 07. He won on this course before. Rory looked good, but the thing about the Open Championship, you know the weather's going to change by the weekend. And all these wonderful scores you receive today, everybody's going to come right back down to earth probably around Saturday. So I think Tiger will be in contention. Will he win? He probably will not win. Will he win another major? He will win another major. Like I said, the key thing right now was to get his body in order. He is healthy now. He needs to get a couple rounds underneath his belt, and who knows? He might surprise you this weekend, or what is the PGA Championship at the end?
Yeah, PGA.
This is not the end for him. He's 38 years old. He'll be 39 in December. He's still a young man, and like I said, he is physically fit, so he has plenty of time to win more majors. Will he catch Jack? I don't know. There's more competition in his league right now than there has ever before, but he'll win some more majors. Will he catch him? It's I don't know.
Yeah. I think he needs to win a tournament first, which he's just not coming back. Hey, it'd be great if Tiger Woods could be healthy for about the next 6 to 8 to 10 years. Man, golf will really take off. There's so many young superstars, and to have him, just like when Jack beat Arnold Palmer, to have him compete against some of the younger guys, the Keimers,
and the thing is,
Fights, those guys.
He also has invited. Jack won one at 45, 46 years old.
Right.
So if Jack can win one at 46, Tiger's thinking, well, heck, I got 6 to 7 more years of good golf coming ahead of him. So
as long as he stay healthy.
Nicholson won one last year at 42, 43 years old. So
that's right. Michael, what are your thoughts on golf? You like golf? You watch golf? What do you think about Tiger?
I don't watch golf. I do drink Arnold Palmer's religiously, though. So, I mean, if that makes me some sort of a golf connoisseur, then that's okay with me. I'm actually going to take the field on this one when it comes to Tiger winning this one. I actually have Rory McIlroy winning this because, like Leroy said, it's England. It's going to rain sometime between now and the weekend. And we all know what rain does to a golf course. Kills everything. Now, with that being said, I like seeing Tiger back in contention. It feels right. Golf didn't feel right when Tiger was away. I mean, obviously, Tiger has not been the same Tiger since the incidents. That it is a little too risque to say on television, folks. So we're just going to call it the incidents.
Family programming.
Yeah, I'm trying to tone myself down a little bit, so we won't go into that. I think he's starting to come back. It's taken him a little bit longer than he would have liked, obviously. But it just feels right. It feels like all is right in the golf world now. I mean, the only thing that would make golf even better is if Adam Sandler actually played around as Happy Gilmore. That would be the greatest thing ever. Will he win another major in his lifetime? Yeah, I think he will. Will he catch Jack? I hope he does. But that remains to be seen. But again, I've got Rory McIlroy winning this one. He's just he's a little bit fresher in the legs. He's a little bit younger. He's got a little bit more power. He's English. That kind of helps in this situation. And he's he's what Tiger was like 10 years ago, which that's good things for Rory McIlroy. Rory McIlroy is the future.
Very, very well could be. He struggled at times in big tournaments, so that does remain to be seen. Kelvin, your thoughts on the big tournament this weekend? The Open. It's not the British Open, it's the Open, as Leroy referred to it. What are your thoughts?
Well, first I want to say congratulations to the Houston second-round pick or first-round pick, Reed, who won the Golden Spikes Award today. I didn't know if you saw that.
Yeah.
He won the Golden Spikes Award today. That's a pretty huge accomplishment down there. But as far as the Tiger Woods thing, he has a great shot to win it based on how he plays in the weather that's coming up. If you go back and look in 2006 when they played here last, Tiger Woods actually played better today than he did back then. And he wasn't leading like he isn't today. After that round the last time he played, he was 2 under. This time, no, he was 3 under, but he played the course 5 under today and had a couple bogeys. He hit 2 more greens in regulation, and he also hit more fairways in regulation today than he did. And during his after his round press conference, he also sat down with the ESPN reporter that covers golf. I can't remember his name off my top of my head, and said that he knows that the weather's changing. The next 2 days are supposed to be windy with chances of rain the next 2 days, and the next perfect day is Sunday. So if he can hang around until Sunday and play again like he did today, I think he wins it.
We can see that red shirt on Sunday, right? So, and the red shirt usually always means good things.
There'll be a red shirt on regardless.
That's right.
His Sunday shirt is always red no matter where he's in.
Exactly.
Assuming he makes the cut. But I think we can assume he makes the cut. But, hey, I want to thank you guys for another great episode. Really good talk on the All-Star game and looking forward. It's going to be a great second half. We'll be here every week to talk all the latest news. And the trades are going to get insane the next couple of weeks, so we'll be talking that. But I want to thank Michael, Leroy, and Kelvin for joining me. Thank you for joining us. Be sure to like us on Facebook, like this video on YouTube, spread this video. We're at sports-kings.com/reading between the scenes. That's our baseball site. And we'll see you next week. Thanks again.